What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel. And today, because I simply, given the state of Madden's gameplay right now, can't play and upload Madden 7 days a week, and we're at the halfway point of the college football season, let's start talking about the 2020 draft and draft prospects. I want to start with my positional rankings before I do like my first 32 team mock draft, so you guys get a little bit more familiar with our prospects. And I mean, it is what it is. We do it every single year. I love talking about college football prospects, getting ready for the draft. And we're going to do today what we do, and we start every single time, and that is with our top 10 quarterback rankings. So for our quarterback rankings that you got to see here today, I think there is a massive drop-off after the top two quarterbacks. I think the top two quarterbacks could go to any of the QB-needy teams. Miami, Cincinnati, Tennessee, Tampa Bay probably. And then there's a bunch of other maybe teams, but there's probably going to be at least 3 for-sure teams that absolutely are going to be looking to draft a quarterback. I think the top 2 would be great fits on any of them. I think after that, it's incredibly dependent that whatever team's quarterbacks 3 to 10, regardless of where they're going to go to, they have to have that young quarterback guy. They can't go to a team like the Miami Dolphins that has defensive everything, and they're not going to be able to grow. They're not going to be able to get developed. 3 all the way down, they're going to have to go to the right landing spot. I think the top 2 quarterbacks should be Gucci wherever they go. So without further ado, jumping into number 1, I made a change. If you watched any of my draft stuff, when I talked about my draft classes in Madden 20, I had a different quarterback at number 1. Now, change of heart. At number 1, I have Tua Tagovailoa, 6'1", 220 pounds, out of Alabama. Who are the positives of Tua right now? He's pro-ready, cannon arm, great mobility, phenomenal accuracy on all 3 levels: short, medium, intermediate, whatever you want to call it, and deep. I just see, leadership, everything. He ticks off a lot of boxes and has a lot of the intangibles. You look at the negatives for Tua, I guess you could argue doesn't have prototypical size. He's 6 feet, 6'1", somewhere in that territory. 220, which is, a little bit more prototypical. He's huge, he's thick, he's a thick boy. I don't have any durability concerns, but from a height standpoint, looking over the offensive line, you could argue that it's not perfect. But I mean, if Baker goes, Tua's no shorter than Baker Mayfield. A lot of people argue Alabama's wide receivers help him out a lot. You have Jerry Jeudy, he's probably going to be a top 10 pick. Henry Ruggs should probably be a fringe first-round pick. You have Devonta Smith, probably early day 2 pick, somewhere in that range. And you look at some of the talent they had last year, like Irv Smith. There's a lot of good skill position players there, and that helps Tua. That elevates all of his crazy stats. I think that there is some validity to that, but on the downswing, I think Tua also makes all those other guys that much better. The reason why Jerry Jeudy's looking so dominant is because he has someone like Tua Tagovailoa throwing the ball. So I think the downswing of the Alabama wide receiver argument doesn't get talked about enough. The biggest negative for me for Tua is he plays superhero ball. You want to argue what that could mean for the NFL standpoint. Is like, look at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston constantly will have turnover because he doesn't know when a play's dead. He won't eat a sack. He won't throw the ball away. He always wants to be the superhero. You kind of see that with Tua just a little bit, but I think that's a product of his environment. He plays for Alabama. He has all that elite talent at wide receiver, at the skill position play, and he has that unforgiving, unrelenting faith in his arm that he can make every single throw because his arm is ridiculous. I think that will get honed down in the NFL. I think because he's such a smart football player, he'll realize there's a time and a place, and I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue in the NFL. So ultimately, I think he's the safest quarterback prospect in this year's draft class and should be the first selection, be it to Miami or Cincinnati, whatever team gets that number 1 pick. I will say, though, we'll talk about it in just 1 second, because my number 2 prospect is Justin Herbert, 6'6", 235 pounds, out of Oregon. You look at his base, you look at the foundation, all the things you want in quarterback. I don't see any real weaknesses. There's no red flags. There's some areas that he's stronger in, other areas that he definitely needs to work on, but I don't see anything that's like, oh, well, this and this and this is great, but his accuracy sucks, his pocket awareness sucks. Like, everything is a great starting foundation for him. Underrated mobility. I mean, I looked at the draftnetwork.com. It's a tremendous asset when you're trying to learn about draft prospects. But the guy there made the comparison. He's like, if he took Josh Rosen and Josh Allen, combined them into a prospect. I'm like, yes, that is exactly what he is. I definitely agree with that assessment. I think a guy like Justin Herbert, he's going to be able to surprise a lot of people in the NFL when he gets to the next level with how agile he is. And I think you could definitely see plenty of like 60, 70-yard rushing games from him every now and again. But the negative of that is his durability. He has missed a lot of time, maybe not a lot of time, but he's missed some games, some crucial games for Oregon. And you have to argue because of his play style, and he's just kind of frail. He's the smallest. He's listed at 235. He's the smallest 235 I've ever seen. Trust me, taking to someone that's been 235, I think they're buffing on his weight. I think you're getting a little Kyler Murray buffing up the height weight stats here for Justin Herbert. And he's not really an improviser. for a guy that has that mobility, he's best when he's inside the pocket. When he goes outside the pocket and has to scramble, it's when things start to get a little bit shaky, which is a common negative for a lot of quarterbacks. But because I feel like he trusts his mobility, because he has that mobility, he kind of, I'm not going to say tries, but he has that belief that I can get outside the pocket and make a throw. And really, his consistency drastically drop off when he does that. You just have to look at the game against Auburn in the opener, Auburn, Oregon. Final Hail Mary, gets outside the pocket, has plenty of time, things break down a little bit, and then he just slings it 10 yards past the red zone, the end zone there, and the wide receiver didn't have a chance to make a play. So I think there needs to be a little bit more refinement for Justin Herbert, but I still think, generally speaking, he is a starting NFL quarterback with a lot of upside, which, in turn, I think Tua would be better suited to go to a team like Miami, which doesn't have all the big, QB assets. And Justin Herbert goes to a team like Cincinnati that has Zach Taylor there. They'll be able to groom him and refine his game just that little bit. I think those would be the perfect landing spots for each of my top 2 quarterbacks. So now coming out of the top 2, I really think for right now, we're from 3 to 5. These guys absolutely have to go to a right scheme, a team that's going to develop them properly. Number 3, I have Jacob Eason, 6'5", 235-pound quarterback out of Washington. Huge arm. I mean, a lot of people thought he was the second coming of Matt Stafford at Georgia. Then he transferred to Washington. And since he's gone to Washington, man, his accuracy has greatly improved. Like, he does seem like a little bit better honing everything down, because his arm's so ridiculous. It goes into the negative here because everything he throws is at 100%, which, like, on one thing I kind of like that. There's a lot of zip on everything. It's always going to be able to get into tight windows. But also, he makes, like, the short routes just that much more harder. I remember, like, Tyree Jackson during last year's Combine throwing drills was getting ragged on by Steve Smith because he was just chucking everything 100% when you don't need to. You need to be able to show off that touch from here again, which is the negative for Jacob Eason. I think experience could be another negative. He's only really a one-year starter. Had some spotty play here and there for Georgia. But ultimately, he's the starter this year for Washington. They have some great talent there, and he's really keeping them alive in a very weird Pac-12 this season. But I think from an upside standpoint, because he has the prototypical size, the prototypical arm, go to the right place, get him honed in for a year. You're going to have a guy probably 2021 that might have a chance starting at the quarterback spot. So I think a team like maybe Tampa with Bruce Arians there, BA, that'd be a terrific landing spot for Jacob Eason. Going to QB number 4, we have Joe Burrow, 6'3", 215 pounds out of LSU. Statistically, he's been insane in 2019. 80% completion percentage in the SEC. As just watched him beat my Florida Gators. Phenomenal placement and anticipation, man. We have a lot of good corners. C.J. Henderson, Marco Wilson. We have Trey Dean in the secondary. I mean, I think Florida right now is like the most picks for any team in college football right now. And you just saw Joe Burrow, man, putting the ball in the right place at the right time every single time. He's finally starting to look like that highly recruited quarterback that Ohio State got a couple years ago. But I have some negatives against him for sure. One-year wonder. You could argue, if you argue that Tua's negative is the Alabama wide receiver, you could argue that Joe Burrow's is LSU's wide receiver. So they have Terrence Marshall, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. They have all those guys could very well be first rounders. Like, they have reloaded yet again at that wide receiver position. I think that it's more so the LSU wide receivers helping Joe Burrow than it is Bama's wide receivers helping Tua when they're evaluating these prospects. And when push comes to shove, his arm talent is above average. I mean, plenty of NFL quarterbacks plenty of starting. I think if you ranked all the 32 quarterbacks, probably at least 10% of them, if not 15%, have above average irons. Like, you could play in the league with an above average iron, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to be able to sling it, 60, 70 yards, ridiculous Mahomes, Josh Allen, Stafford type throws, which, it always is going to be a negative because everyone wants that perfect, complete, prototypical quarterback. And with an above average arm, you kind of got to make note of it. The sling, the zip's not always there versus really any of the other 3 quarterbacks, Eason, Herbert, and Tua, that can really just throw that goddamn rock. But I think Joe Burrow, there's a time and a place for him. And, obviously improving his draft stock significantly right now. I think he probably will find himself into the second round and go to a spot that, hey, develop him. He needs that development. He's really a one-year wonder at this point, but very, very intriguing. I really look forward to, more so than any other quarterback, revisiting where we feel about Joe Burrow at the end of the college football season. Going to QB number 5, we have Jake Fromm, 6'2", 225 pounds, out of Georgia. Positive, he's a big game quarterback. He's an accurate passer with a high football IQ. The negatives is that there's nothing truly spectacular about him. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. He's average athlete. Arms okay. Accuracy is probably the strength, but is it the scheme? Doesn't have to throw the whole, the run's always set up. The play action's always set up. I look at him, I feel like he needs to return to school. I've seen this kind of mentioned a little bit right now on draft Twitter, but I think that'd probably be best for Jake Fromm. Go back one more year, prove a lot of the doubters wrong. Maybe Kirby Smart throws you a curveball here, unless you throw the ball a little bit more and show off your arm talent if you return for another season. But I don't know, man. When I look at Jake Fromm, I don't see it. I see a guy that will be an okay NFL quarterback, which you don't draft okay NFL quarterbacks in the first round. He's getting a lot of first round buzz right now. For me, I think he's day 2 pick and could develop into something. Would be very predicated on him landing in an ideal scenario. But I think, more so a guy like Jake Fromm would be backup. Like, have him go to LA, have him be the guy that sits behind Phillip Rivers, have him be the Brady replacement or something like that. Or if Teddy Bridgewater walks, maybe and you get Drew Brees back for one more year for the Saints, a guy like Jake Fromm sitting behind there could definitely benefit him. But ultimately, for Fromm, I think he should return back to school next season. Going to QB number 6, I have Kellen Mond, 6'3", 220 pounds out of Texas A&M. A whole lot of upside. I think he's a very high ceiling. He's an athletic quarterback with a fantastic arm. The negatives for him, though, is his consistency. His throwing motion's a little erratic, to say the best, but you are seeing the development under Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher has sent a couple quarterbacks to the NFL, most famously Jameis Winston, who we kind of ragged on already in this video, but you definitely have seen through really one full year of Jimbo Fisher there working with Kellen Mond. The improvement, so I could argue that he might want to return to school. I think another year of development in under the eye of Jimbo Fisher could help improve his draft stock where he's not number 6, say, next year. But given the fact that there is a lot of questions right now, I feel like after the top 2 quarterbacks, after Tua and Herbert in this year's draft class, there could be money on the table for Kellen Mond to make and be one of the higher surprising quarterbacks selected. So for right now, though, I do like Kellen Mond a lot more than most. Thought he looked very impressive against Alabama last week. Going to QB number 7, I have Jordan Love, 6'3", 210 pounds out of Utah State. He's still getting first round buzz, but he has regressed big time in 2019. The LSU game was not pretty, did not do him any favors, but for a positive, you can't ignore his 2018 tape. I thought based upon 2018, he was a fringe first round quarterback. So, it's college football. There's always changes in coordinators and in wide receivers and skill position playmakers. And maybe a little bit that has to factor in for his down year of the season. Because when you look at the positive, Jordan Love, big arm, mobility, upside. He looks like, honestly, I saw someone on Reddit actually say he's like a more accurate Colin Kaepernick. And you do, maybe not the exact same arm strength that Colin Kaepernick has, but you do see a lot of similarities coming on the similar conferences between Love and Kaepernick. I think his mechanics are less than ideal. He's below average IQ. He does get confused. You just saw in the LSU. They'd throw in a surprise safety, a surprise blitz, and he wasn't picking it up. And you'd hope he would finally put it all together. It just seems like he was missing a little bit. But there is that high upside, much like Kellen Mond. They both declare, go in the right spot, groom him, have him be a backup for the time being, get him mid-round, you might have something on your hands. Going to QB number 8, I have Steven Montes, 6'5", 225 pounds out of Colorado. Prototypical NFL size. He's a really solid base of skills. But when I say solid base of skills, it means you don't really excel in anything. He kind of tries to run a lot, even though he's not really athletic. His arm talent is okay. It's fine for a 6'5" quarterback. Probably for that size, it's a little bit lacking because usually your 6'5", 220, 230 pound quarterbacks can sling it. Where him, it's a little bit more inconsistent to say the least. But he's just an average. I think he has a ceiling as a backup quarterback. Those have value in today's NFL. So I think you can probably get him, day 3, somewhere in that territory. QB number 9, I have Cole McDonald, 6'4", 205 pounds from Hawaii. I think he has a very high ceiling. He makes a lot of electrifying wow plays, brings some mobility, brings some good size. He plays like a quarterback that's 5'10", usually when you look at the tape, but you find out he's 6'4", 205, 210, somewhere in that territory. Okay, we might have something to work with there. But his consistency is incredibly bad. He's the kind of guy he could throw for 7 touchdowns one week, and the next week he'll go 3 touchdowns, 6 picks. So the inconsistency there, the hero ball, trying to make plays because he thinks he's usually the most talented player on the field. It definitely shows up a lot. The scheme, he's a rhythm thrower in Hawaii. You're gonna have to work him out of that. Try to develop him into a pro scheme. His throwing motion is kind of weird, but I always want to kind of hold throwing motion against people, but for every Tim Tebow, that's just the throwing motion will never be able to get overcome. You have someone like Phillip Rivers, that's just ridiculous, but it works more often than not. So I think Cole McDonald, for me, is the ultimate project quarterback in this year's draft class, kind of like Tyree Jackson was last year. I think he goes to the right place. I would love to see Cole McDonald land with a Q. I'd love to see, honestly, him in Philly. I think Cole McDonald as a backup in Philly would be awesome. Just grow and learn. Because that ceiling is there. And then finishing up at number 10, I have Jalen Hurts, 6'2", 220 pounds out of Oklahoma. With Jalen Hurts, you get an A+ leader. The modern NFL today kind of favors his style more than it ever has. But, obviously, you got to look at the gaudy production in Oklahoma. Maybe there's that. The reason why he makes the list is like, did Lincoln Riley kind of like refine him as a passer enough that, he could take that project and carry it on to the NFL? Maybe. But also, there's the smoke and mirrors of the scheme. Oklahoma just shits out Heisman winners. Like, Lincoln Riley needs to go to the NFL. If you need a head coach in the NFL, pay him whatever it costs. If Cliff Kingsbury get a job, literally triple that to get Lincoln Riley to come over. But a big question about his true talent, it's even back to Alabama. I mean, he's never thrown a whole lot of turnovers, but he doesn't make a lot of wow throws. He's just kind of, he takes what's there, and, it's kind of it. I think that you could still argue that he might be a better NFL running back, like a position change. I mean, he's so freaking powerful. Like, I don't even mean that as like, let's put stereotypes. Like, I generally think he could be a nasty running back in the NFL level because he's built like Tim Tebow, for God's sakes. So I don't know, man. Jalen Hurts is going to be very, very polarizing. I have no idea. I don't got a true read on where he's really going to fall. I've always just kind of maintained that, like, I think he might be a better running back than he would be a quarterback at the next level. But you never know, man. Lincoln Riley, he's a magic man. Maybe he truly did refine Jalen Hurts and could make him a quarterback prospect. I mean, right now, you look on the internet, you look on draft Twitter, oh, yeah, he's going to go in the first round. Absolutely not. He is day 3 in every sense of the word. But I've now changed my opinion from him 100% having to switch his position when he gets to the NFL to maybe there's something there. So those are my top 10. A couple other quarterbacks that I didn't talk about. We have Sam Ehlinger from Texas. I personally don't think he's going to declare at all. You have Anthony Gordon from Washington State. Always going to be pretty much take note of these Washington State quarterbacks with the success. I mean, Luke Falk started some games for the Jets this year. You have the Minshew hype. So Gordon could be the next quarterback in that line. Case Cookus, Northern Arizona. Big-time quarterback there. From a size, prototypical, just keep an eye on him, prototype quarterback. And KJ Costello from Stanford still has a little bit of a pulse here. Obviously he's been banged up. I'd like to see him get a little bit more healthy and put some strong tape for Stanford down the stretch. So there you go, guys. Those are my top 10 quarterbacks at the halfway point of the college football season. Let me know what you guys think about this list. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. Did I miss any quarterbacks that you guys just are shocked that didn't make my list? Are you a Brian Laricki fan? You like Nate Stanley? Let me hear about it. And we'll be back tomorrow. Actually, tonight, we have a Pink Slips live stream tonight. And in case you can't make it, it will be tomorrow's upload on the channel. So thank you guys for watching. As always, if it's your first time stopping by and you want to see a lot more draft content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed or if you learned something today. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.